It's time to relive great moments with former Cowboys.
Eddie, something one of the all-time great.
You know, that's one of the great things in having the opportunity to coach here at Oklahoma State was the fact that you had such great people.
It's time for Where Are They Now on Triple Play Sports Radio.
John Farrell, former Cowboy pitcher back in the early 80s.
And, you know, mostly putting up with me, I guess, after, chasing everybody around, chasing us around the country.
Where Are They Now? Our weekly talk with former Oklahoma State athletic coaches, players, and personnel.
Desmond Mason, former All-American player here at Oklahoma State.
So today that's what I spend most of my days doing. For the most part is, in the studio trying to paint and trying to create, and I enjoy doing that.
It's like catching up with an old friend every Wednesday.
Boy, do I feel old today, as I always do on a Wednesday when we bring back some of these former athletes. We're talking with Houston.
Sure did. Had a great time. That was of course, my mom and dad went to school there. My brother, Dickie, as you mentioned, went to school there. And, of course, we both met our wives right there in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Now your host, ready to take a stroll down memory lane, here is Tom Dirato.
Well, thank you. Welcome once again to Where Are They Now? And joining us, as we've been promoting here for the last couple hours, kind of a thing we do every year prior to getting to spring training, which is a little bit down the line. But Jordy Mercer, former Cowboy standout, and Jordo, it's going to be difficult for me to start this conversation because we're always talking about the Pirates. Not so this year.
Yeah. Some new blood in the mix now. I like it.
For those who might not have followed Jordy's career here, he's now a member of the Detroit Tiger organization. And before we get into the current employer, you have ties. You've been in the Pittsburgh organization for a long time. I know it's the business. We talked about that many times on this show with you. But, a little tugging at the heartstrings leaving?
Yeah, to be honest with you, yeah, it was kind of tough. I mean, we spent that long in an organization, and I think the total years I was there was 11 years, all the way from minor leagues to the big leagues, and you get to know people really well. You get to know the odds and ends. You get to know security guards. You get to know ticket people. You get to know just things that kind of make your life a lot easier, make your family's life a lot easier. And when you go, I don't know any better, we'll put it that way. And when you go into a new organization, I don't know anybody in the Pirate or the Tigers organization, and so it's a new chapter for us, a new chapter as a family, a new chapter for me. That's something to be excited about. I kind of feel like a rookie again because I'm going in the clubhouse where I don't know anybody hardly, and I'm kind of just sitting in my locker and whatever, but. It's fun though, man. It's fun. It keeps me young. It keeps me fresh, and I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
Did you not look at the weather forecast? I mean, before you decided to cast your lot with the Tigers. I mean, -2, I think, was the high today. This is not exactly Miami, Florida.
Well, that's the thing is, we talked a little bit earlier before we came on, and when you're a free agent, I mean, that's kind of your ultimate goal. Is I want to be closer to home. Now I got 3 older kids, or my boys are getting older and whatnot, and I want to get into warmer weather because I've been in Pittsburgh for 7 years, blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up signing with Detroit. So, sometimes you just can't explain how it works out. I'll tell you a little bit about the process. Detroit was interested early on. I mean, they called me about Halloween time, somewhere around there, and saying that they were interested and saying that hopefully we can, progress and get something done later on. And the winter meetings rolled around, and we kind of stayed in touch. The winter meetings rolled around, and the first day was kind of slow, but we reached out. They reached out. We kind of had contact, and then the second day, man, things escalated really quickly. They wanted to get something done. I've always been the guy that's wanted to get something done, as well as everybody sees the market's just crazy as it was last year, and it's turning that way again this year. I mean, guys are signing for nothing, it seems like, and they're really good baseball players, and some guys are still unsigned that are really good baseball players. So I want to get something done. They wanted to, so we kind of came to terms late Tuesday evening, and we got something done, and it was kind of a perfect fit. So it's something that I was looking forward to, and I can't wait. Like I said, I can't wait to keep going.
I don't know much about, for lack of a better word, the Tiger depth chart, if you will. But what kind of traffic are we talking about? Obviously, you started shortstop. I mean, that's where you majored.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my goals going into this whole free agency thing. Obviously there's not very many starting shortstop jobs out there. I'm on the older side now, 32. I know that's not old to a lot of people, but to the baseball terms, it is now these days because the game is getting younger. The game's getting so much younger, and I'll tell you that here in a second. The reason why, but that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a starting job. I feel like I still have some years left in me. Some fuel left in the tank that I can produce and put up some good numbers and help some team win some games, and that's what they were looking for too. They were looking for some veteran guy to help solidify their infield and kind of go from there. And so that's why I think both sides thought it would be a great fit, and that's one of the reasons why I was really interested in being with Detroit. And on the flip side of that, after I did sign with them, and I figured out because we play them every year in Pittsburgh. That's one of our interleague matchups. We play the Tigers every year, but I don't know those guys personally. I just know them from playing against them. And so I started flipping through the roster after I signed with them, and there's only like 4 or 5 guys over the age of 30 on their whole 40-man roster, and I'm one of the guys that are over 30. So it's good. It's a young roster. I talked to Gardner. He's an Oklahoma boy too as well, and he's our skipper, and so he's really excited about these young kids and young talent. And that's one of the reasons that they wanted me so bad is I could go out there and help bring some leadership to these young kids and like I said, solidify their infield.
I could see that seriously, and we always kid around, but being on a serious note, you talk so much about when you first broke in, the guys that you leaned on in that clubhouse day in and day out to help you get through these early days. It's kind of crazy. As long as I've known you, now the role is flipped for you.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's changed so quickly, and so I'm fortunate to obviously be in a situation like this where I've played as long as I have, and I've got a few years on my belt. I've got a few playoff games underneath my belt. Played on some really good teams and put on some not so good teams, but not too bad. So I've seen kind of the full spectrum, but. It's kind of cool to be one of those older guys now that no one's seen the look on those kids' faces and knowing that I was in their shoes at one time and looking for advice, looking for maybe an answer or two or just a question, whatever you had. And it made my life so much easier having those guys in front of me that kind of took me under the wing and open door policy type thing. Any question is no question's a bad question. And that's kind of the way I'm approaching it, too, because I know how much easier it was on me where I could just go out and play and not worry about it. And that's kind of what, I want to be now, being one of the older guys is, I want those kids to come up and ask questions and feel free to talk to me. Just sit down and talk to me if you want. It doesn't matter. Whatever you got on your mind, shoot it and let's talk about it. And I just want to make their transition easier, just like mine was when I was their age.
Is it reassuring to go from one veteran skipper to another, knowing that they've been through a lot of this as well?
Yeah, that was definitely a key too as well in this process. Is knowing I played against Gardy before when he was managing the Twins towards the end of his Twins tenure, and all I've heard is nothing but great things about him. He's been around the game forever. I mean, I think everybody knows him in the game that's somewhat familiar with the game of baseball. Ron Gardenhire is a guy that's has managed a lot of winning teams. I mean, those Minnesota teams he had were really good. And so him and Clint Hurdle are kind of right there on the same page. They've been around the game. They know the game. They're players, managers. And so when I started doing research about Ron and talking to a few guys about him, I heard nothing but great things. And so I was just happened to be up there last week, and I met a few guys and met him, and we sat down in his office and have a conversation. And it was nothing unexpected. And everybody told me was true, and I just can't wait to lace him up for him and get out there and hopefully win a bunch of games.
Yeah, you could talk Oklahoma with him, couldn't you? As you said.
Yeah, that's one of the first conversations that we had is when he called me on the phone after we signed, and he was actually in Oklahoma seeing his granddaughter because his daughter lives in Oklahoma, so he went down there to see him for a couple of weeks. We were only just an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to your days there at Pittsburgh, and again, you always were pretty blunt and straightforward when we discussed the business side of things. you knew eventually something would have to happen one way or the other. They could extend you or you become a free agent. But does that diminish any of the close ties you had within the community? Because I'm sure that the Pirates were like a lot of other MLB teams. They got out in the community, worked in various organizations, and I almost called you the day of that synagogue tragedy that they had there. I wondered how that would have affected the club, because you guys were good at getting out and being amongst the people.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough. I think we talked on here several times about how they're a small market team. I mean, there's no way of putting around it. They're a small market team. Players filter through there. Kind of when the money line gets starting to get higher, that's when they tend to move things and tend to bring in more younger players to the system. They build to their system, which they have an unbelievable farm system.
Mm-hmm.
They have great players throughout, and that's what makes them pretty good year in and year out. So we had this conversation before, and we talked about it. It was one of those things where I would love to stay there my whole career. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think anybody would know, or anybody would want to, once you find out and you've been there for so long and created those relationships with everybody around the community, like you said. We'd walk as a family and have lunch before the game, and everybody would be like, "Good luck, good luck tonight. We'll be there." Blah blah blah. So it was kind of cool to actually be a part of something like that. And it's a huge sports town. I mean, it's enormous. The Penguins are obviously really good. The Steelers have always been good, and everybody wants the Pirates to be good. So it's a humongous sports town. It's a great community. We lived, that was like our second home. We lived in called the North Hills area for 5 years, and they invited us with open arms and welcomed us in for 5 years. It was tough to leave, but on the flip side of that is, it's a new chapter in our life. It's really exciting to be a part of something different and unique, and because not a lot of people get to be able to do this, and so we're happy as a family. We can't wait to get to Detroit. We've heard nothing but great things about Detroit, because I've had a few former players and former teammates that's actually played there, and I've reached out to them, and they've all loved it. So it's an exciting time. We can't wait to get going.
Big picture Detroit for me. They have, because nobody's lost the game yet. Everybody's 0-0, and everybody's got World Series aspirations in both leagues. But kind of give me a bottom line for, other than they've got great young talent, where does Detroit fit in maybe in the total American League picture?
Well, I think the number one thing is the American League Central is up for grabs. I think Cleveland's kind of ran that division for the last number of years.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're starting to trade some pieces away. They're starting to realize that some of their older guys, they got some older guys now that have been there for a while. They're trying to kind of rebuild from the farm system and bring some young talent over. So I think, for me personally, I think it's kind of a wide open division. I think the White Sox are starting to turn the corner, because they've been loading up on prospects the last few years. So obviously, I think the Indians are still the team to beat, but I think it's going to be a lot more closer than what people think there is. And then also, I think the Tigers have been in this rebuild mode for a few years. They haven't been in the playoffs in a while, so a healthy Miguel Cabrera is going to be huge. He only played 40-some games last year. So having him for a full season will just up your win total by, maybe 5 to 10 wins a year. And so having a healthy him, and then like you mentioned, I think they've raved about this young talent ever since that I've come on board. They got a bunch of young players that they called up last year that really kind of took off and took that next step, and they got I guess they have a bunch of young arms that are really, really good, that are out on the verge of AA, AAA, even in the big leagues toward the end of the year. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. I think we're gonna be a fun team to watch, especially when you have a lot of young kids that they play the game the right way, and I think their talent will just show. And who knows? Maybe the division will be up for grabs.
Hey, anytime Kirk Gibson's name can be mentioned in the same breath with an organization, obviously this came about the other day, but maybe you knew about it, him joining, I guess, as a special assistant, maybe. I don't know what his title is. He does the broadcast, I know that. But what about that? That would be somewhat of a thrill to be around him some way, wouldn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, seeing some of those, as more as I dug into the Tiger organization, I mean, they have some greats. I mean, Al Kaline's still bouncing around in spring training. and he's one of the greats that's been around. Trammell's the same way. He bounces around like crazy too. And so it's going to be fun to meet those guys and kind of pick their brain. And yeah, Kurt's obviously one of the greatest calls of all time, what he did. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to hang around those guys and, like I said, just pick their brain and have a conversation with them and just kind of to be a part of this whole thing.
Where do you guys train, spring training, and when do you leave?
We are in Lakeland, Florida, which is kind of in between Tampa, Florida, and Orlando. And it's about 45 minutes to where I've normally been, so it's not too far from where I'm used to going. And our first squad, I think, is February the 18th, and I think I'm going to go down probably the 10th or so. I usually get down like a week early and try to get outside and get some ground balls and hit on the field, just kind of get acclimated to the weather and kind of get my feet wet a little bit. Have you done
much? I mean, you've stayed in shape training-wise, hitting and done all you can while you've been home. You mentioned you're an old timer at 32, but does it take more each year to kind of make sure you're ready to go when the bell rings?
Yeah, I think over the course of time that I know my body pretty well, and I'm kind of starting to figure out what I do, what I need, and what I don't need. I think for me the biggest thing, and I tell a lot of these young kids that, because at a young age you don't really know, but when you get home, you got to take time off. You got to enjoy what you're going to do. For me and my family, it's the biggest thing, becoming a normal dad, taking my son to school, pick my son up, things like that. Take a few weeks off and just put everything up and forget about things for a while. I think that's the biggest thing, is mentally more than anything, is you need to rest mentally. Obviously your body is completely worn out too as well, but I think the game of baseball is more mental than anything, especially when you get to the top, Major League Baseball. So for me, that's exactly what I did. I took 2 or 3 weeks off to try to be a normal dad, and then I started slowly getting into things, working on my flexibility, working on my, trying to stay loose, all that stuff that as a young kid, you just go in and you want to lift weights and pump iron and get strong. For me, that's the opposite now. For me, I'm trying to stay healthy. I'm trying to stay on the field. I'm trying to create that longevity. And then I start working my way into weights and start getting after it and getting my strength back. And then towards Christmas, usually somewhere right around there is when I start swinging the bat. I'll slowly progress it. Some kids will want to get in there right away and get after me. I slowly progress it off the tee, start working from flip spin, and then go to BP. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm full-fledged. I'm getting live with BP in the cage and kind of just getting ready for spring training. I just started taking some ground balls, and hopefully this weather will cooperate a little bit so we get some warmer weather and I can get outside. But yeah, that's kind of for me. I've over the course of my off season, this is my 12th off season I've had, or 11th off season I've had, and so I'm starting to figure this thing out a little bit.
It's a small baseball world. This is an obvious question, but you've got, amongst everything else, you've got a whole new set of arms to get used to in the American League. Not that some you haven't seen in the National League, people move around, but you've got a whole new cast of people to kind of figure out a way around.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is I've never played a full season in the American League. It's different. Obviously, it's going to be different pitching wise. The National League is really tough, especially the NL Central, what we were in, where we had to face some really good pitching in the last several years, with Milwaukee and St. Louis and Chicago. Even Cincinnati had some really good young arms too as well. So we're going to run into that in the American League too as well. But as I played in the National League, I was more familiar with those guys. The more times you see them, obviously you know what they're trying to do and what their go-to pitches and things like that. So there's going to be an adjustment period for me in this new league and trying to figure out what guys are trying to do, what they like to go to, and facing guys multiple times and things like that. So that's going to be a fun challenge for me as well. And then also the other thing too is in the National League, I pretty much hit 8-hole my whole career, and I had the pitcher hitting behind me. So in the American League, you got a DH, and so hopefully I get to see some more pitches to hit.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be really nice.
Especially if they just threw it right down the middle and let you hit it. That'd be good too, probably. I don't think they do that in the American League either. Hey, in the time we got left, I want to flip the page here real quick. Obviously, you'll be busy with your day job, so to speak, and you won't have a chance to do what a lot of the former players are going to do. But this is the final year for Allie P. We started up here pretty quick. there'll be lots of promotions and lots of festivities that'll be staged throughout the year. But again, your thoughts now reality hits. This is it. This is the final year for that stadium that you so loved.
Yeah, this really hits home for me. I mean, this is I love my university. I love my time there that I spent there at Oklahoma State. And I still talk to Josh a lot. Josh didn't obviously coach me, but he's the coach there now, and I talk to him quite a bit. And so I know those promotions going on. I know those things going on, and it's going to be a tough year for the people that's been around this program for a long time, because Allie P's we've seen nothing but great baseball there. It's hosted a lot of great teams, and but on the flip side of that, it's time for something new. It's time for something great, and I think everybody that's ever driven around that place has seen what's going up there and what's going under construction and what's going to be there. The future of Oklahoma State baseball. I mean, I think it's at the sky's limit right now. So I'm excited, to see the new stadium, to see it completely done. I've seen a bunch of pictures of it. I've driven by it a few times. I've talked to Josh about it too as well a bunch of times. So it's going to be an exciting time, but. Allie P hits home hard with me. That's kind of where my game blossomed. That's kind of where I realized that I got a chance to kind of go deep in this game called baseball and hopefully live out a dream. And it was nothing but the best 3 years. I still say it today as the best 3 years of my life. There's no question about it. Creating those relationships with those guys, I still talk to today, and we had some really good teams there. I mean, we're one game away from the World Series my sophomore year, so. We had some really good teams, and it was fun, and it's going to be sad to see Allie P go, but yet you're going to start creating some more memories, new memories at O'Brate Stadium.
See, you said it perfectly. I am looking forward to the last day, and I'm not, because I spent probably more time in Reynolds Stadium over the years than I spent in my house. So to see it finally come to an end, there's a bittersweet moment for me and a lot of you guys that I remember when you were just kids, when you were here growing up and what you turned into. That's the kind of the conflict I'm fighting here throughout the whole last year.
Well, just let me say this. It's not like we're talking about some university that's just been around, that's just mediocre at baseball. We're talking about Oklahoma State University baseball. I mean, this program's been around for many years. We've been very, very good for many years. It's one of the premier programs in the entire country. And so that's what makes it really hard for former players and guys, fans, or guys like you that's been around the program for a long time, is what type of teams have been through there, what type of players have been through there, and it's been around for a long time, and that's what makes it so special.
Last thing for Jordy Mercer, and I got to kind of bring it around full circle, but anything, and this is, I should have prepped you so you'd have a good answer. You'll come up with something, even if you got to make it up, I'm sure. But highlight anything when you think Allie P, my career at Oklahoma State, my stay there. One game is probably unfair to ask, but maybe a weekend or something that happened that you'll always remember?
Hey, the one that I always remember is the original game when I hit 3 homers in one game, which is, I don't know if it was impossible to do that.
Well, the wind was blowing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
out
well, there you go. See, that's it. And the part about it was not what a lot of people don't forget is I came in the ninth to save the game, and I actually blew the save, and I lost the lead, and they tied the game, and I happened to be the first guy up in the bottom of the ninth, which I hit the home run to win the game. But a lot of people don't remember that I'm the one that blew the game in the first place. So that's one thing that I'm always going to remember is the crowds. It was crazy. That was one of the first times we got to host a regional in such a long time, and it kind of made its full circle. We were building up to that spot. Allie P hadn't hosted a regional in a long time, and then we actually get to host one, and to be able to do something like that, just as an individual, be able to do something like that in front of our fans was really neat. That
was the picture that still is down there. You probably still have it. None of us knew you had a vertical jump as high as you showed.
I don't know if I had that, or not either.
You soared through the air before you got to the plate on that home run. But what a great moment it was. And the thing is, you never did pitch. I mean, did you? Anybody ever? When you were in the pro ranks, and I think I asked you this early on, but did anybody ever say, hey, we knew you closed, we knew you pitched, Would you like to try it here in the minor leagues? Did you ever do that?
There was a few people who knew that I pitched. We'll put it that way. But I don't think there's anybody ever said that, hey, are you willing to try it? I think they kind of left that to the side. But I think a lot of people knew that I could pitch and knew my background and kind of knew where I came from and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, they still have a sign out in Tologa said the home of Jordy Mercer, and they have it on a big old sign out there. I think both sides of the stop sign, the one coming into town and one going out of town.
That's right. That's right.
Jordo, I appreciate your time as always, buddy. Good catching up to you, and I'll be watching. I have to change my MLB channel now to Detroit games, but best of luck with them, and I know you'll bring a lot of leadership, and that's what they're looking for. And I like the fact you said one thing, and boy, you feel like a kid again, don't you? Going into that clubhouse, trying to learn new people.
Yeah, I appreciate it, TD. Thanks for having me, and I always enjoy our conversations that we have.
Well, I'll be catching up. Hey, just because you go to Detroit doesn't mean you won't have a phone. I know where you are, so we'll. and I'll text you if the first time I see something it probably needs to be texted. Maybe with your swing or whatever, I'll send that out to you, as always. I don't want you to feel like just because you go to Detroit, I've lost interest in critiques or anything. I'm not going to.
As long as you keep me on my toes, that's all I ask.
I'll do that. Hey, Jordo, thanks, buddy. Have a good trip up.
Thanks, TD. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Jordy Mercer, one of the good guys, one of the real good guys we've had on this on this campus for any sport.